It's time. Thank you for tuning in to The Force Report. I'm T.D. Arnold, and today my special guest is going to be Ulas Broom. Ulas will be talking about his experience playing in the Negro League during the time of segregation, being an accomplished musician, as well as his experiences in Anderson, South Carolina. But now, it's time for The Force Report. Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you this morning?
I'm doing quite well.
That's good.
Good. I want to thank you for taking the opportunity to share your story.
Yes.
Can you state your name?
My name is Ulas Broom Sr. I'm one of the oldest of the family of children. My dad was Rochelle Broom Sr. My mom was Frankie Lee Broom. And we lived in Champaign, Illinois. That's where I was born and raised.
Okay.
Champaign, Illinois, which was Twin Cities, Urbana, Illinois, and Champaign. And that's where I was born and raised.
Was it a small community?
The area we lived in, it was a small community, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But the city itself, Twin Cities, being a pretty good size,
Mm-hmm.
and being a university town,
Okay.
it was a good size area.
What was that like growing up? I should say, what time period was that?
Well, the time period, yes, I was born in '36.
Okay.
And when my brother and my mom put me in school when I was 5 years old. At that time, they were taking, you didn't have to be 6 years old. My mom wanted me to go to school earlier. And so when I turned 5, she took me to school to begin my schooling at Lawhead School in Champaign, Illinois. And which, like I say, was Urbana and Champaign, Twin Cities. And later on, the following year, my brother started in the school. But that neighborhood area where I was born on Eureka Street, I was born at home. Dr. Ellis was my doctor that pulled me and brought me in this world. But Champaign, Urbana was a good-sized city even when we were coming up. It was very well known because of the college. The Illini was always well known. Mm-hmm. Football, basketball, and baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And we had there in Champaign, we moved from there in '48. And we moved to Danville, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And we moved there because of my dad searching for work, because he had worked for the CNEI Railroad in Champaign, which they started laying off. And in Danville, this plant had opened up, General Motors, just brand new built and hiring people. And so we moved to Danville in '48. And my baby sister was 1 year old, Marie, and she was 1 year old. So when we moved to Danville, there wasn't much change when it came to black and white. It was almost about the same as far as school. We went to the white school, but in that school, we sat on one side of the room, and whites was on the other side. So it really wasn't any change from where we moved to, I would say, when it came to mixing. I did my schooling to there, and then I got where I was being the man of the house, I thought, and so I left home when I was 16, wanting to be on my own. I always wanted my own money, always wanted to be on my own. So I left home at 16. I didn't get to finish school because I thought, oh man, I'm getting me a job and I'm gonna be on my own, and which I did that. I started to work at 16 at a beautiful restaurant called Deluxe Restaurant, and started in the kitchen, washing dishes and pots and pans, and helping them. At that time, it was real going thing about Catholics. They called it Meatless Friday. They would come in and he would have this big halibut fish lying on the chop table. And I was the one to help him slice these halibut steaks. And that's what they would eat. That's what the Catholic people would eat. That one restaurant was real well known for that. And so I worked there for probably a year and a half. And there was a gentleman come in, his name was Harold Newman, owned a men's store. And he always talked to me when I come out to and speak to him, and he says, why don't you come and work for me? Just like that. And he said, come by and I'll talk to you. So one afternoon, I left the Deluxe Restaurant and went around the corner on Main Street to his shoe store. And he said, I would like for you to come and work for me here and learn business and learn how to fit shoes on people. So I did that. I started working for Harold Newman. I was the first black to fit shoes in a white store. Blacks did not shop there. It was a little bit too expensive to, that type of thing. You find some that come in and bought shoes, and they sold the beautiful shoes of Jarman and that kind of thing, man, and those are beautiful shoes. And he taught me how to fit shoes. And I sit on this men's stool where the women would put their feet right here, the men, and I would try the shoes on, put the slipper spoon, put the shoes on, let them walk around through there, and walk over to the machine. At that time, I don't know whether anyone remember that other than me. Maybe they don't. But the shoe stores, Sears Roebuck and Newman's, and a store called Mises, which was all Jewish stores. You could walk over to a machine and stand in that machine, put your feet in that machine, and look down in there, and it had this green flow to it. It would show you if your shoes are too tight or if you were up to the top of it, too small.
Right.
And I enjoyed learning how to fit shoes, but then I couldn't fit a woman's shoe, a white lady's shoe. I had to do men. They wouldn't let me do white women. But I didn't think nothing about it being a young man. It didn't bother me. At the time, it didn't bother me. So I worked for Newman for about 2.5 years, and then I was old enough to go to General Motors. And I left there and went to General Motors. And I started there in '54, March the 13th, 1954. And it was just very exciting to me. Hard work, but it was exciting to me to see something I had never seen before, iron at 2,700 Fahrenheit degrees, running like water. And I just could not believe it. And I learned how to pour steel from there. I learned how to do that and a lot of jobs, different jobs at General Motors. And in 1962, they started laying off. And so that was the year that I never went back. But it was a very beautiful experience. Hard work, but a beautiful experience.
Now, as you were doing this, how did you transfer into playing baseball? What got you interested in baseball?
Well, my dad got us playing baseball.
Okay.
Dad started a league before we left Champaign called the Midget League. And we were like from 6 to 12. It was what they call a Midget League. And my dad, he started that league. That's where we really started playing baseball. It's like they play here at the Little League, but that's where we started playing baseball. And then as I got older, I started playing with the senior teams, and what they call a couple of the teams belonged to the American Legion teams, and we started playing. And my brother and I, we played on the same team, played with Keystone, and I played with Laurel Leaf Fellowship. And I also played with the white team in Westville, Illinois. I was the only black on the team. We had the manager, his name was Happy, and he really stole me from the other team. He asked me, because I'm not bragging, but in fact, my brother and I were very good ball players, but I knew I was a good pitcher. And I threw a lot of jump, a lot of fastballs, a lot of jump we call curveballs, sliders, and that kind of thing. And Happy asked me would I come down there in Westville, which was a city of not too many black people live there. And that's where my baseball career started.
So at that time, had there been integration into baseball at that time, or was this all before?
No, it was still kind of funny then.
So funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jackie had broke the ice.
Right.
For the majors.
For the majors.
But the ice wasn't broken in the areas we were playing. Okay. In some areas. Okay. You just couldn't play on one of their teams.
And you were with describe what the Negro League was. Why was that formed?
Well, the Negro Leagues like you take Birmingham and the Monarchs, the Indianapolis Clowns. They formed those teams because they couldn't go to the majors. And you believe it, these teams that I'm talking about were just as good as anybody played in the majors. Them gentlemen could play some baseball. And you take Josh Gibson and all of them guys, they were great baseball players. Could have made the majors. If anybody else made the majors, they could have made it. My brother, as we came up in baseball, he had this chance to go down and play with the Memphis Red Sox, his first trial. And then at that time, Negro baseball was a circle. We couldn't go out of that circle because we couldn't play on the white teams. So we had to go from one team, like saying the Indianapolis Clowns, to the Monarchs. The Monarchs boys that played, Birmingham Barons, maybe needed one of the players, and he would draft him to Birmingham. And it was just in a circle. I'll go you to the Indianapolis Clowns and to the Monarchs and back around in a circle. They all played in that circle and traveled to different places. But even after Jackie and Larry Doby, Campanella and all the guys, even after they cut the ice, teams like we still had a hard time playing in different cities.
Financially, how with the Negro League, what was the team you played with?
I played with the Negro team with the Keystone
Okay.
Athletics.
Okay.
My brother and I both.
It was just a life experience. I'm glad today that I lived through experiencing that type of life and what was going on, because today I look around and I see that the ice was cut for so many young men that's playing baseball today.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy seeing that. Yeah.
Why do you think what was the beginning of, you think, with so many things in baseball, especially with African Americans at that time, why do you think the league ended? I mean, what was it financially? It was hard to keep up with. Was it interest because of people moving to the majors, blacks moving to the majors? That
Are you speaking of the Negro teams?
yes.
Well, I believe that because the breaking up on the Birmingham Barons and the Monarchs and that kind of thing, it was because of money.
Yes.
They couldn't play in the big show. They couldn't play in the big stadiums. The Sandlot crowd started going in, listen to the radio, the Cubs and the Yankees and all of that. So they didn't have that Saturday and Sunday playing time anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So the money that they were making traveling to them kind of areas, shut it down. Everybody listened to the big leagues on the radio,
Yeah.
and everybody want to hear the game, the Dodgers. Everybody on the radio, Jack Ross is playing today, Campanella, he's catching, that kind of thing. Everybody's black. That was concerning the Birmingham, Kansas City, that cut that out.
So even though that we had an all team that was all black, and then you had another team such as the Dodgers that had maybe a few blacks and mostly white, America, including African Americans, pretty much tuned on the radio to listen to the Dodgers rather than to listen to them or even to go see, because they didn't have the distribution or to hear or to see the game. So if you were if the game was away, you couldn't necessarily hear the game or see the game.
Yeah, well, they always had access to radio now.
Okay, they did.
Yeah, always had access to radio. Those that could afford a radio
Okay.
had access to listen to the games.
Wow.
Because the games are on the radio.
Right.
But having the money, number one, some of the people, and going to a stadium, a white stadium, that was a problem. You going to the Chicago Cubs in 46, 47, you look back in some of the news areas, you see very few blacks sitting in the stand. And I think during that time, it was money. It was a money thing. And then two, it was the segregation thing too. It had a lot to do with it. Just didn't want blacks participating in the stadium and that kind of thing. Even though Robinson and Campanella, they all had cut the ice in the major leagues. Still, you never had too many blacks going in the stadium. And, at that time, maybe money, I think, was more so a lot of problem too, other than being segregated and didn't want you in there.
Right. So, describe the issue of racism during those times even though your people were breaking the ceiling, such as Jackie Robinson, but you described earlier that there were so many black people that could play just as well, if not better,
Exactly.
than some of the white counterparts, but yet they were just a tryout for them that they never even could get in. So,
That's right.
so there was. It seems like to me that there was a selected few. Okay, that could make it in, that made it in,
Yeah.
and no one else could.
Yeah.
Even when the ceiling was broke.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Oh yeah. At that time, all the young men that played with Kansas City and Birmingham, they were great ball players. But you take like Jackie Robinson was a young man that was great playing ball. And Brian Speaker wasn't going to let him go. Didn't matter what was going on and what was being said. He was just going to take him anyway because he knew that this man could help him win ball games. That was it. And to follow up on him, you speak of black baseball, they just started going down because of money. But then followed was Campanella, one of the greatest catchers other than Yogi Berra. And when you get to talking about pitchers, Joe Black and those black pitchers that Dodgers had at that time, Don Newcomb, great pitchers. They paved the way for other black young men that you see today. And they got great baseball. They got ball players today that's great. You don't hear too much about them like you did when the announcer would say, Jackie Robinson, Campanella, they playing today, that kind of thing, You don't hear too much of the broadcast bragging of our black players. We got so many young black players now that's playing in the majors. You just wouldn't believe it.
Right.
And that's a beautiful thing.
Right.
But now my feeling about that is great because I love to see young men going into baseball. Fine, basketball, yes. Football, no. I love to see you last longer, baseball.
Yes.
You last longer in football, in basketball.
Right.
And I wish a lot of my young men, everybody don't like the same, but I sure wish a lot of our young black men would choose baseball other than football.
Right.
Because it's so dangerous. Once you're out, you're out.
Yeah.
You're out. And concussions and that kind of thing, and you're out.
Yeah.
But baseball, you're gonna retire if you want to stay there.
Yeah.
And the injuries is very
Minimal. Yes.
So that's what I'd like to see. I love to see them boys they got today and is playing. Is great. They're great.
When you were as a part of the Negro League, was there ever a time when you were playing white institutions where they kind of paired you up and you had to play with a black team? You're being a black team, you had to play a white team. And was there a time that it kind of went south and you had to get the heck out of there?
Oh, yes.
Describe that.
Yes, sir. As we were talking the other day, when we were playing, which was baseball weekends, and gentlemen that worked, we had to play on the weekend, but we played on a league called the Wabash League. And most of those teams are all white. And when we did go play in Indiana, Cayuga, Indiana, and different areas, Wabash, those teams were all white.
Mm.
And very seldom we had any problem with the players. It was always the people in the stand
Mm-hmm.
hollering out words that,
The N-word.
yeah, talking the N-word and cussing and that kind of thing, and and it made you. It really, if it was in my shoes of doing that time, all the players, you would be nervous. I mean, you would be tensed.
Mm-hmm.
We would play, I would say then, pretty good baseball, but not our full. How would I say it? And not the full course of playing baseball. You're scared. We're nervous, and we couldn't put out what we really wanted to put out in baseball because you got these people throwing slurs and talking junk, and you don't know what's going to hit off. You don't know whether you're going to get beat up by a lot of people, and then it was just something to experience.
Right.
It was something to experience.
Was there ever a time when you were playing one of these games where you felt threatened or your life was in danger? You had to get out of there?
Oh, yes.
Describe that.
Oh, yes. That was like on the 4th of July. We played Cayuga, Indiana. We started playing that game. And all the slurs started hollering, and we was playing, and we ended up getting ahead of the scores, ahead of the team, playing. And all of a sudden, the gunfire started. And we could hear the bullets over our heads. And we knew then it wasn't our time to stay there. And so we and our manager and all told us when we went in for our bat, we wasn't going back. We were going to leave. And so that's when we left. We left. We was probably just going into our second inning of baseball. I'll never forget it. We was leading them. We already had them 5-0.
Wow.
Already we done got some good hits, driving men on them. I'll never forget, we had them 5-0 when they were really raging. And all of a sudden we heard these guns, pow, 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 pow. And you could hear the bullets going over your head. And Big Derrickson, which was our manager, and he was waving for us to come in out in our field because they were out there where the bullets were really coming in. And he waved us in, and we got in our cars, and we headed back to Illinois. We were like, Cayuga, Indiana was from Danville, Illinois, probably the distance, probably 45 miles, something like that, on the line of Indiana and Illinois, just like that, like Twin Cities. But Illinois was the same now. I'm not putting Illinois on the pedestal. Illinois was Mississippi North,
right,
in some areas. But then when you cross the line of Indiana, that was Mississippi, Indiana.
It seems like that within the white supremacy, blacks are achieving something because they worked at it, being hard work.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that it's almost like a sore loser, like a child, and it's even though it wasn't coming from the people who you were playing, but you're saying the people in the stands, the fans, and they're having a sore loser, which represents, unfortunately, the community.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I'm wondering if how, as you as a young African American at that time, how does that register to you? You're doing your best, but yet no one is there are those out there who are saying that you still should lose, even though, or you should give us the game, pretty much. Does that kind of make sense at all to
Yes,
you?
it does. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Because that's what they wanted us to do. They wanted us to stay behind.
Yeah.
They didn't want
On purpose.
On purpose.
Yeah.
They wanted us to do that because we were afraid.
Right.
They knew they had us nervous. They had us tense. So they thought that we should not be ahead of them. We should let them beat us. That's just what the whole situation is about. We should not come in their town and beat a white club. That's all that was. That's what it was about.
Right.
Which was a town of all that area of Indiana was clans.
Oh.
So we didn't have no business in the town anyway. So, so that's the way they felt about it.
Wow.
We just happened to win that year to play the championship. And they had won the championship. And so we had to play them. But they didn't want us to beat them. So that's why they started their ruckus.
So describe to me your transition. You have an interesting transition from the love of sports to the world of the blues and yes. What was that? A unique transition.
Well, I'll tell you, I bought a Gibson guitar. I was working at General Motors.
Okay.
On Friday, every man that left General Motors black had a certain area of where the liquor house, Terrapin, where they cashed the checks. They went there. And that's where they cashed the checks. So next door to that check cashing liquor store was a pawn shop. I never drank in my life, never wanted to drink. But surrounding me, I knew people that drank, even in my family. But I had never wanted to be one that drank liquor because I was always wanting to be in control of me. That was my feeling about it. I didn't want anything to have me out of control. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I never chose liquor or drugs or nothing like that. Mm-hmm. Now, I started smoking in my young days. I started smoking. I think I was probably around 21, 22. I started smoking I was admired the red pack and the long Pall Mall cigarettes. Okay. Right. But let me tell you, I was a fashion smoker. Okay. I love President Roosevelt's fashion. Okay. He always had a cigarette holder in his mouth with a cigarette. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to be like that. Okay. And I would buy these nice, pretty cigarette holders, gold trim, and pearl in the middle, and then I'd put my long cigarette in it, and I'd sit around the guys, legs crossed with my long cigarette and smoke a Pall Mall. But that started me to smoking. I enjoyed it, and I quit smoking probably 60 years ago now. But drinking never excited me. I wanted to drink. Playing guitar, I go back, I was cashing my check. And as I came out of the place, the pawn shop was there, and I seen these acoustic guitars in the window. And I go in, and his name was Red. And I said, Mr. Red, I said, how much is that acoustic guitar that you got right there in the window? He said, you can give me $12.50 for that. I said, what, $12.50 for that Gibson guitar? Oh, man. If I had that guitar today, it would probably, I don't know how much it would be worth, but it had a pearl right around the hole of it.
Mm.
It was pearl right around the hole.
Wow.
It was so pretty. And the notes had the pearl in front.
Wow. That's beautiful.
It was so pretty. And what started me playing, I would get on in the house and I would put Mama's records on the Victrola. At that time, we had a Victrola.
Yeah.
And I had to wind it.
I have one.
You got one?
Yes.
Well, you know what I'm talking about.
And it works.
And it's just somebody I tell you, at that time it would work. It worked nice. And I'd wind it up and I would listen to T-Bone Walker,
Oh, yes.
D.B. King, and Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Water.
Oh, yeah. Muddy Water.
And my ear would catch some of these licks they played.
Yeah. They were licksters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how I learned.
Right.
I write today. I can't chord because I don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
Because I learned how to lick, how to talk with my guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And like BB does. Howlin' Wolf, same way. Being left-handed, he still play licks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, pow, well, that kind of thing. You know, but that's the way I learned how to play. Then, as I went, I'd never been in a caravan in my life until I was 18. I had never been in a drinking area, a caravan. And I had a gentleman told this other gentleman, said, "Are you guys gonna play in this caravan tonight?" And they said, "Yes, but we need a vocalist. We need someone to sing, and we needed someone to play the guitar." And he said, "The only guy I know around Danville that can play guitar and sing is Ulas Broom." Yeah, okay. He come down to my home, and he said, "Ulas," he said, "would you like to play with us tonight?" It was that Saturday night. I said, "No, man." I said, "I've never been in no tavern or no club." I said, I have never played out like it. I said, I just play here at home." I said, "I don't." He said, "Let me tell you what to do." He said, "Meet me this evening if you don't mind and your wife don't mind. Bring your instrument with you, and before the tavern opened, before the club opened, you and I will do something together." And that's how I started my career playing in the clubs with Big Twist and the Metal Fellas, Ronnie West. We played in different areas, the Carbondale, Illinois, and all the southern places down in Illinois, Danville, Illinois, Champaign, Galesburg, Illinois. Those are the clubs we played in. And me not being a rhythm man, we had a great rhythm man.
Mm-hmm.
BB had one of the best.
Yeah.
But I just had the ear to be able to make those squeezing sounds of the blues. And I love to play in B flat and E flat because that's the sound of the blues.
Yeah.
And
B flat blues.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I could play it like that, but the chord, I really haven't never learned yet, and now I want to.
Oh, wow.
You know.
So the name of the band you played with the band. What was the name of the band?
Yeah, Big Twist and the Metal Fellas. That's where I played with them all until I just said a retirement of not playing.
Right.
Twist left the group, and the other part of the group and myself moved to Dallas. Twist moved to Chicago. Someone that gave him a very beautiful offer to do some record cutting. And he did some albums on burgundy wine and that kind of thing. And he made one album called Too Much Barbecue. And that's where he split with us. But he was a very good musician. He could play harmonica, drums. He could do it all.
Wow.
And so we moved. I moved to Texas first, and then the organ player, Ronnie West, which had played with a lot of groups, recording. He moved to Dallas too. He moved to Dallas, and we got together there. We're doing some things on Saturday and that kind of thing, on Saturday night. And so finally I kind of retired from the music. My wife, she wanted me to quit doing it and going into staying in at late night like that. And so I stopped doing it.
Right.
But they kept playing, and now I'm the only one out of 9 in the music that's left. They all passed away. And same way about baseball. The ones that I've come up with and playing on the teams, when I go back to Illinois to visit, it's kind of hard to even think about it when I get there because there's nobody to visit anymore. And here I am, still here. I mean, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that I thank God that I'm still here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. I just miss them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I miss them.
All your buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But since I've been in Anderson, from day one, I moved here. I believe that I know more people in Anderson than I'll ever know in Illinois. The job that I had, which was with the Recreation Department, I just met so many people. Having that opportunity to work in the city, people coming in that I would meet, know, like Coach Howell, all of those people that I worked with. It seemed like I've been born here rather than Illinois.
Right.
This has been, I'm an Anderson person. I don't tell nobody I'm Illinois because I've been here 30-some years now.
Wow.
And I feel like I'm an Anderson person.
Right.
I'm Anderson.
Andersonian.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And I've enjoyed my life here and still enjoying it. And I wish that I had started early. So many things I would like to do in this city as far as when it comes to politics. I still believe I can, but my wife says, no, I'm not letting you do that. But of course, it's too much stress.
Right.
But I do wish I had started a couple of years back and ran for a mayorship. I really believe that I could do a lot for Anderson because I know Anderson.
Right.
I know what Anderson needs.
The heartbeat of it. Yeah.
Yes, sir. The heartbeat of Anderson, I know what it needs.
Right.
And not saying that he's not a good person. I'm just saying that the job is not being done.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I wish today that I could.
Right.
There would be so much stuff that I know that I would go to this county council and say, let's get this job done. This is what it needs. That's so much stuff I look around needs to be done.
Well, would you ever be interested in such a grooming someone to step in that position, especially of a young, being younger African American?
That was step in the mayorship?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Would you help groom them?
Oh, yes. I sure
As
would.
an advisor?
Oh, yeah. I don't want to do no names.
Yes, I know.
But I know two that would make very good leaders in the mayorship.
Right.
And not only that, a very good leader on the city council.
Right.
See, we always need more than one.
Right.
Since I've been here, it's always just one.
Yeah, the balance of power.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly what I'm talking about. And I know a couple young men, a very beautiful young man, grown men, and would fit the job. But to be able to get the politicking going, I would
Right,
say.
of course, yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But yeah, we got some good guys. I'm not putting Tom Mary in them down low.
No.
I'm just saying that there's a lot of surrounding jobs that I see need to be done.
Well, there's also the idea of beautifying the city, creating jobs,
Yeah.
and then making downtown Anderson go past River Street.
Exactly.
I mean, it could be getting in industry in here, building, not just factories, but
Yeah.
having something that really where companies would come in here and say, "Hey, we want to be a part of what's going on." That's like you have in Greenville, just like you have in Spartanburg.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you see, this is the problem that we have. We don't have that push to negotiate and bring big people here.
Right.
When we had people say, "Look, that has big companies," and they see that Anderson has the property that they could build, but we don't have the people that's in position to accept them.
Right.
The only thing that I see in Anderson that has more yes about is food industries. All they want is restaurants.
Right.
See, we need more than eating.
Yeah.
We need jobs that's going to put families in position where they love to work. I'm going to do 15 years here.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Well, also eating. I remember when I first moved here, and I realized that the first thing people talk about is their recreation is eating. It's it's like, where you want to go? Not to
That's right.
museum or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go eat.
Exactly.
And so I agree with you. That's the industry of food is. I mean, I like food. I mean, I love food, but I mean, it's just. I think there's other. I think educationally, we learn more on outside of food. I mean, and then make it also, if you're going to have food, make it a variety of.
Exactly.
You have other things. You got man out from Ethiopia, and you got Thai, you got all. Just there's more than one. There's more than just an Asian food. There's more than just Chinese.
Exactly.
There's Indian. There's other things. And so to explore, and so rather than the typical.
Exactly.
And also one of the things that when I noticed when I first came here, and you're being from coming in as well at an earlier time than myself. When you see the big monument to General Lee in the center of town, and that's a statement.
Yeah.
And I remember going to a county council, and I think it was talked about this as more so dealing with heritage. It was the idea of preserving one's heritage. It has nothing to do with racism. And I brought up, and I had with me at the time, the Confederate Constitution, which states in Article 2, it's about slaves. And most people who were pro-Confederates have never read the Confederate Constitution. And so seeing the statue and then knowing the history of it and yet defending it as though it was, and saying it doesn't offend, I guess if it doesn't offend me, why should it offend you? But it also offends, it's also a sense where other people, where it slows down. I know when Greenville said, okay, we're going to take down ours, and you could see growth You see Spartanburg, you see
Right.
growth,
Growth, that's right.
and people from outsiders,
That's right.
you know, where you're participating in America. Part of getting rid of the past is getting rid of the past.
That's right.
You know, all the hiccups. I mean, okay, just admit you were wrong.
Right. Right.
It's okay. I mean,
It's all right.
it's just like you try to describe the sore loser in the baseball game.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose.
Yeah.
And it's the same type of the white
Same
supremacy
mentality.
has that with it, where we don't want to lose,
Exactly.
and we're gonna come to hell or high water. We're gonna even though you lost.
Yeah.
I mean, even though you guys left the game that day, and you left early, but technically you really won.
Oh, that's right.
You know, and they were still mad. I'm sure they were still mad. Come back here so we can really be sore losers.